Right before we jump into this video, have you downloaded my app called My Gear Vault? It's the best way to input, organize, and protect your gear, and it's free for iOS and Android. And yeah, if you don't have insurance, you can get a quote right inside the app. Because what happens if somebody takes your lens and breaks it like that? You may need coverage. Now let's get to the video. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and this is an unboxing, sniff test, wind tunnel test, and review of the Canon 85 1.4L IS lens. Now this lens clocks in at $1,600. Now you may be saying, well, would you go with this or would you go with an 85 1.2 from Canon? Well, that lens, when not on sale, is $1,999, which is $2,000. So I'm opening this up to see what's in there. We've got a box, we got some styrofoam, we got some paperwork, all of this stuff that never gets used, it goes over there. Here is your lens hood. Always use a lens hood. I'm a big fan of using a lens hood, even if I'm indoors. I want to block any stray light that may be getting in the way, but for now, we'll leave it right here. This lens right here is much lighter than the 1.2. It's also going to be much faster in terms of autofocus speed, because that 1.2 85L version 2 lens is super slow focusing. It's also pretty difficult to shoot wide open at 1.2 and get tack sharp images when you are shooting photos. Sometimes when I do that, when I've used this lens, I would have to sit there and take like 30 pictures in a row, because if I'm moving or if somebody else is moving, well, then you may get something out of focus, because 1.2 is such a narrow, shallow depth of field. One thing I noticed is when I shake this lens around ever so slightly, it feels like you're holding a coffee or something that has ice in it, because you can feel the elements moving around inside because they're floating because of the IS. Now, is that going to make your images less sharp because you have IS in there? I don't really think so. I don't think you would notice much of a difference. I personally would go with the smaller, lighter, less expensive lens, because it's just better to have the IS, in my opinion, especially in this day and age when you're shooting a lot of video along with photos. We're actually using an 85 1.4 from Nikon, so you can see what the 85mm looks like in real world usage. But I took this out to the Philadelphia Museum of Art to photograph Rocky, to photograph the art museum and the stairs, to photograph some flowers, and also photograph the statue that's across the street. Now, I wanted to show you what 85 at 1.4 would look like with seeing George Washington on the horse out of focus. And then I thought, let's do this at f/22 to show you how that would look. And you can see the difference. Of course, 1.4 to f/22 is a huge difference, a huge range. You're going to see what happens. The bokeh is very nice on this. It kind of obliterates the background. This lens really obliterates the background. The 1.2 also obliterated the background, but again, lighter, less expensive, more versatile when it comes to shooting video. I would lean towards this for just about everything. Now, let's get to the sniffy sniff right here. Did you guys find anything? No. It smells like Lord Helmet's helmet. The inside of Lord Helmet's helmet. Doesn't smell good. Actually, it smells pretty neutral. So when I was looking at the sample images, they look bright, they look sharp, they look contrasty, they look like they have nice color. I photographed some of the statue from different angles, because obviously with an 85, you got to move in closer. It's kind of like if you're doing portraits with this lens, you can get some nice headshot portraits, but it's not as long as, say, a 105 or a 135, where you can take a couple steps back and get a shoulder length, a mid length, or a full body shot with something like an 85 1.4. That could still work out and help you blow out the background even if you're shooting a full body. This lens will definitely come in handy if you're a wedding shooter for doing some of those portraits. But for today, if you're a well-rounded photographer and creative, you're doing stills, you're doing video, and this is going to be something nice to have in the bag. Now, when you look at the photos of the art museum steps, you're going to notice that the lines look super sharp and super straight. I didn't do any corrections in the raw files in Lightroom at all. Now, I also happened upon a tree that was flowering. So I'm like, let me go inside the tree and get some sample images for you. Let's shoot at 1.4 and work our way all the way up to I think I stopped at f20. I didn't go to f22 for whatever reason, but just look at how it obliterates the background of the flowers. It's focus tight right on the flower that I needed it to be, and the background just disappears. And of course at f20, everything's in focus, and it's kind of not something you're really going to ever shoot at. f22, maybe if you're doing some landscapes, will come in handy, but not very often do you find yourself shooting at f22. Now, it's time for the most important test, though. Can you think about what it is? It's the wind tunnel test. That's right. We're going to leave the lens hood off for this one, and we're going to see how this one does with it. I felt some regurg back in my face because this is it's not as chody as the 1.2, but it has some chodiness to it. And the wind was bouncing back at me. So it was kind of going to the sides, not so much around. So fails the wind tunnel test. But I did go ahead and shoot a brick wall to give you guys some sample images that you can download over on the website to see how it does. You can download all the files that I took from outside at the art museum to see how the images look, as well as these brick wall shots. Now I did notice at 1.6, 1.8, there was some vignetting around the edges of the frame. I don't care that much if I get vignetting in my images. I kind of like it to draw me into the subject, and also with the corrections of the RAW files these days, you can take that out. That's not something that is just in the Canons. You're going to notice that in almost all lenses. Even my 105 1.4 from Nikon has some vignetting at the wider apertures. That's just the nature of the beast. But from edge to edge, this is a super sharp lens, super nice contrast, nice colors. Love the IS. Oh yeah. For hand holding, I shot a shot at 1/10 of a second inside here at the of the bobblehead, and it's sharp. Then I flicked that switch and turned off the IS, did the same exact shot, and you can see what happened. It's just blurry. So the IS is very good in this Pro lens. So I can recommend this one, $1,600. I'd buy this over the 1.2 these days. I don't think they're going to ever come out with another 1.2 lens. I don't think they're going to make a version 3. I don't think there's a reason to do it with the ISO capabilities of today's cameras. I do understand that it's still a stop difference from 1.2 to 1.4. You may notice a little bit of difference. Actually, you're probably not noticing any difference from 1.2 to 1.4, at least to the trained or even untrained eye. I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference. So that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. To check out some other reviews that I've done, click up on the screen right now. To check out some other videos as well, you could click there. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, and hit that bell button so you can get notifications. And that's it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.